just gonna start it. So I see somebody in the chat going, well, I think we should be live now. So let's start the bumper. Hey guys, so thank you very much for waiting on us. So let me take a zip. And there we go. Okay, so we're gonna pull the audio down just a little bit because I think it's a little bit too loud now. So there we go, sensitivity down. Okay. Hey guys, and welcome to Digital Classroom, a new episode. Now we had a little bit of a problem with our power here, but that's what happens when you live in the outback. Well, not really the outback, we had a breaker problem, so we can't help that. So it's all fixed now. We have some aluminium foil in our breakers, so now it should be okay unless we have a fire after this, but I don't hope so. So welcome to Digital Classroom. Now Digital Classroom is made possible by our friends from Rogue Expo Imaging, which you probably know from the Flash Bender and of course the Expo Disc. The other really good friend of us is BenQ. Now BenQ creates monitors that does Adobe RGB and that are great monitors for a great price. You can buy them approximately for $6.99, which is a great price for an Adobe RGB monitor with a great color space. Now why Adobe RGB? Very simple, you want those vibrant reds that you shoot, also as vibrant reds on your monitor. You can of course spend a lot of money on a monitor and that will be okay, but BenQ is just the same quality for a very, very low price. So let's see what we can do today. We're going to start with our small flash system, and we're actually also going to start with something called a light blaster, a new kit. And I have to be totally honest with you guys, when I see something that I like, it's cool, you know, I see something, I go, that's interesting. But sometimes you get a kit that really changes the way that you look at photography, that gives you new creative possibilities. And the light blaster is one of those tools. And at one point, you're going to want one, because I want to show you some stuff that's really cool. But we're going to start with small flash. Now what are we going to do with small flash? Now small flash are the system strobes, right? The ones that you put on your camera. But the best thing about on your camera is that they can also go off your camera. And that's actually what you should do. Never ever use small strobes on camera, because if you use them on camera you get direct lighting. You get lighting direct on your model, and that's not very flattering. Now if you take them off camera, what do you need? Of course you need something with a radio trigger. You can use line of sight, but line of sight is always a little bit limiting because the strobes has to see each other. Now imagine this, the strobe is behind me, I'm here, I want to shoot my model, and that doesn't work because the strobe is behind me. So we use radio triggers. Now you can use Pocket Wizard, Cactus, Yungnu or whatever, and we actually chose at one point for photics. Now why photics? The reason we chose photics is actually very, very basic. They were the only guys making something for Sony that worked. And as soon as I started using them, I really fell in love with the system. It's awesome. You have a nice controller on your camera with a display where you can set everything from manual to ETTL. And with the newest release, with the Photics Mitros Plus, you actually have all your systems inside your strobe. So it's very easy. Now, one of the things for the Digital Classroom is that you can actually ask questions. And we have a question from Menno. Yes?
How did you get the structure on the wall behind you?
Okay, so the question is, how do I get the structure on the wall behind me? Very simple. I just took something in my hand and I started. I'm just kidding with you guys. When we bought this building, the structure was already there, but the walls were all white. Now, one of the things in the studio is what you see a lot is that the walls are always white. Now, why are walls white? Oh, because it's nice. But it's so much wasted space. So what we actually did is, and you can see that in the walls behind us, we have one pattern over here, and it fades over in the pattern over here. And if you look on my class on Kelby 1, you can actually see how we created and why we created the walls the way that we did. But I will tell you very quickly. This is dark, and this is lighter. Now what happens if I shoot that way, I get a very rapid light fall off because it gets darker. But if I shoot that way, I get a very slow light fall off because the light is actually getting more on the walls because the walls are lighter. So it works a little bit like that. And also, if you look very closely, you can see that this is all going down. And this is more like a tipped pattern, more a pattern. And in between it fades out just a little bit. So we actually have one wall for the background here, a totally different wall here. But if we combine the two, the viewer won't see that there are different patterns on there because the light fall off. So we can create those walls very easily with paint. Now the structure was already there. We call it, I don't know how it's called, but people can do it on the wall. Granol, I believe it's called in the Dutch. I don't know what it is in English. I probably now announced something totally weird and offended somebody. But hey, I'm Dutch. English is not my native tongue. More questions, Menno, or is that it? Okay, if you guys have any questions during the workshop or during the digital classroom, in the chat room you can just ask. Now, how are we going to do it? We're going to bring in a model and we're going to shoot some images. And you're going to see those images coming in Capture One. And right after the images, we actually also do the whole retouch process. So you can see whatever you want, you can ask whatever you want, and you're going to see the whole workflow from A to Z. Z, 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 Z? I mean A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever. From the first letter of the alphabet to the last one. Z? Z? I don't know. Anyway, so let's start. Let's bring our model in, and today we have a beautiful, beautiful model. We have a model that exceeds all expectations. We have a model that's awesome, ridiculously nice, incredible, amazing. It's, what's your name again? No, I'm just kidding with you guys. It's Kimberley, and Kimberley we actually knew from a Miss Beauty contest. So I'm in the jury of a Miss Beauty Flevoland. And she was one of the models where I actually said, this is Miss Photoshoot. And she actually also won. So I think I have a few more models. I think I can pretty much say this is a cool chick. So can we say cool chick? Sure. I'm always very kind to my models. So Kimberley, can you please come in? And we also call her Kim or just model. Hello. How are you?
Hi. Doing fine.
So this is Kimberley. Hi.
Hi.
Hi world.
Hi world.
How's your English?
I think I can
Manage.
pronounce something.
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 Kimberley doesn't have a microphone.
No.
Okay, if you can stand against the wall, please. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, and that's very simple, very basic, I'm just going to put a strobe straight on the model without any form of modification. And what we're then going to do is we're going to use a rogue flash blender to show you something which is different. And then we're going to use the light blaster to do everything totally different. Menno, do we still have connection to the internet? Cool, so you guys are still enjoying it, I hope. Okay, so the first thing when you use small flash or system strobes, or small flash is like a really weird saying actually, because they're small and they strobe, they flash, small flash. Well, actually it's pretty cool. But you can also call them, of course, speed lights. Now, the first thing, what I always do is I put them on a boom, as you can see here. Now, what you have to do, of course, is make sure that they point this way and make sure that they're connected correctly. Now, a lot of the guys will actually use the little hot shoe converters, put their strobes in, and they will actually fall out. Because in the front it's open, in the back it's open. So what you can better do is use these little converters that are actually delivered with the strobes. And all strobes normally deliver them, and now they can't fall down. Now, seeing my luck today, they will probably fall down, but normally they won't fall down. Okay, so now you can put your strobes into different groups, A, B, and C, and sometimes even D. Now this strobe is in group A, meaning it's my main strobe. I always put my main strobe in group A, meaning I don't forget it. Okay, so let's point this at our model, and let's see what happens. I'm always very careful with small strobes, or in this case speed lights, whatever you guys want to call it. So I'm going to grab my camera, and we're going to do the first set. Let's hope that everything keeps working. There we go. Awesome. And we're a little bit tied up with some power cables. Okay, there we go. Now, of course, the first shot we're going to take will be awesome, right? So there we go. Nice. And it's black. Now, why is it black? Guys, why is it black? Very simple, it's black because we didn't fire the strobes. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is make sure that you connect your radio trigger to your camera the correct way. So this is the most mistake. Now, a lot of people tighten their triggers very much. You do this, tighten, and now it's good. The problem is if you tighten it too much, you will actually distort your hot shoe a little bit. So just untighten it a little bit and then just put it on and make sure that it's tight, but not too tight. There we go. First shot, amazing shot, right? Great, great. Look at the model. Look at the incredibly beautiful shadows. And what did I do? I did something that a lot of people do. I will just shoot. And at the moment I just shoot, I have to adjust my lighting. So now I did this, now I have to go like, okay, let's go to another ISO. Let's see. Okay, Kimberley, are you still doing okay? Sure. Okay, I can't find my ISO. Let me see. And Kimberley is just going there like, what the hell is he doing? What kind of photographer is this? So I'm going to do it again. There we go. It looks a little bit better. Let me see. Yeah. Yeah, great. And now I can start shooting. This didn't look professional, right? For the very simple reason, it wasn't. It was terrible. So what should you do? It's very simple. You take off your remote control and you grab something that I really love, a light meter. And the main reason, oh, let me see, I'm turning it the other way. There we go. I'm trying to teach you guys way too much and now I'm messing up myself. There we go. Awesome. Okay. So, let me turn this up a little bit. That one. I have two of them at the moment, so yeah. Okay, so one of the things that you have to remember, if you're shooting with the speed lights, you can still use a light meter because you can actually put your speed lights on two different settings. ETTL, meaning you're metering through the lens, the matrix system calculates to 18% gray, meaning if you do spot or average, and it will make an exposure. It sounds complicated, right? It is, but it's actually very simple. The whole system is based on 18% gray, meaning the camera will calculate, it will create something that looks like 18% gray. Meaning if you shoot a white model against a white wall, the model will be 18% gray. This is something you also see in your camera. If you shoot a snow landscape, the snow landscape will always look a little bit underexposed. If you shoot something that's very, very dark, it will always look a little bit overexposed. So this is why ETTL doesn't work that way. It works, but it's more like a in-between solution. On manual mode, you can now actually go a little bit beyond that. What you can do is you can actually set the power determining on what your light meter tells you. So I'm now on 1/16th of a power on the remote control, and I'm actually going to meter the light. However, my light meter is still set up on radio mode, meaning if I press this button, it will fire my Allengram strobes, which in this case I don't want. I want the small strobes. So what I will do is we'll go to mode and I will go to the normal flash mode. This is something a lot of people don't understand. I will walk very quickly to you. Can you see the flash mode if you change cameras? Yep. So that's where the normal flash mode is. Okay, so anyway, looks like the lightning bolt. If it doesn't work, looks like a lightning bolt. So the lightning bolt is actually where it should. There are three different lightning bolts. One is a lightning bolt without anything, one is a lightning bolt with a C, mean cable, and one is a lightning bolt with an I, if you have a meter which has a built-in radio trigger. The I is for the radio trigger. The C is for cable release, which you should never ever use because you will break your neck or you will rub down some strobes. And the normal is the setting you should use. Now the meter will actually wait for a pulse. So let's go to the correct ISO. In my case, I want to go to ISO 400 and I'm going to meter. Now, as soon as I meter, some people think, oh, I have to press that button right away. It doesn't. Because with the photics, the first strobe will actually be, I'm ready. The second one will be the correct metering. So you can just press the button like now. You see, I already pressed the button. I will do the first one and then I will do the second one. And it will still meter correctly, 11.3. Meaning if I'm going to shoot this on f11.3, which is actually f13, I will have a proper exposure. I don't have to figure out anything anymore. I will just put this in the camera and I'm done. But before I do that, look very closely at the screen. Menno, you now have the connection with Capture One and me on the bottom, so people can see the image? Okay. You see that there's a very nasty shadow. And that nasty shadow we actually have to take out. Now, how do you take out a nasty shadow? You can do a few things. We can move the model all the way to the front. meaning that the shadow will actually fall behind her out of the frame. We can try to Photoshop it out, and I already tell you that's the worst solution you can think of. And I can move my model all the way against the wall, making sure that the shadow makes a connection with my model, which we're going to do anyway. However, also when you look at the strobe, it's now approximately at eye level with the model. And this is something that normally isn't a great way to do. In nature, the sun is actually higher in the sky. So what we want to do is, if we do a photograph of a model, is I will actually always take my strobe just a little bit up. So let's do the light meter here and just bring the strobe up. So there we go. Now what you will see in a moment is that the shadow will now connect with the wall and it will look a little bit nicer. And I'm still going to ask my model to stand against the wall, because models love to lean against walls, right? There we go. Okay, let me see. Now as you can see, there's a little red like metering system that will actually be around here of the strobe. It's flashing. If you don't see it on camera, don't worry, but it's there. You can of course that way see if your model is in the hotspot. A better way is actually ask the model, can you look straight into the strobe? Almost. There you can.
Yeah.
Now I know that she's in the hotspot. You see this? We do the same thing with grids. Make sure that the model can look straight through the glass and see the strobe. And at that point you know for sure that she's in the hotspot. And at that point you know also that you will have most power on your model. Okay, we're going to meter again. And there we go. 11.5. Now 11.5 means f11 and 5/10 of an f-stop. Oei, that's a problem, because the small strobe system or the speed lights don't adjust in 1/10 of an f-stop. They only adjust in 1/3 of an f-stop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do select, and I'm going to go down 1 click and 2 clicks. So now I'm a little bit underexposed, 1/10 of an f-stop, but that's okay. 1/10 of an f-stop, that's okay, because we're going to solve that like this. So that's about 1/10 of an f-stop. So we're going to meter again. Okay. There we go. Now we're approximately 11.3. Okay, go down one more. Okay. There we go. Okay, so now I should be on F11 ISO 400. Now why ISO 400? That's actually pretty simple to explain. On ISO 100 I need a lot of power from my strobes. And the small strobes use batteries, and those batteries die pretty fast. If I'm on ISO 400 I don't need a lot of power for my strobes, and ISO 400 is still very good on a modern camera. So let's see if we have the correct exposure now. And as you can see on the screen, we now have the perfect exposure. And it looks a lot more professional if you just meter and it's right. But the image looks like crap. It doesn't look nice, right? And that's because I don't let my model look the right way. Now, one of the things we always want to do is have catch lights in the eyes. So I'm going to ask my model to look a little bit that way. Very nice. That's much better. There we go. Now we have a way better image. Now you can see catch lights in her eyes. You can actually see the shadow is a little bit better. But it still doesn't look nice. Now there's another trick with small strobes. If you have your strobe on camera and you're using a zoom lens, you can actually go from wide to long. Meaning if you zoom in, you go to 70mm. If you go back, you go to 24. Now the strobe coverage should of course be different on 24 than on 70 for the very simple reason. On 24 you have a wide angle. On 70 you have a less wide angle. So if your strobe would just do like this, boom, you will lose a lot of power on 70. If your strobe would just point, you will lose light on 24, meaning you have dark corners. So all strobes, modern day strobes, have something called zooming. As soon as I move my lens, you will normally in your strobe hear a zooming sound, meaning it will adjust. Now what it does, it will narrow the beam. Now what I can do is I can actually do this also manually. So now I'm on 24. Well, let's go to 135 and see the difference. Now as you can see, the background is a little bit darker and I can actually see my model a little bit more. I'm starting to get a vignetting, which I really like. So I'm now having more of a pinpoint device. But I'm still looking at my image and I go like, you know, it's not there yet. So I have to make it a little bit more exciting. So let's step a little bit back. Let's do a little bit more. There we go. And now you can really see that zooming effect of the strobe. Okay, that's nice. But I'm still missing something. I want a little bit more power in my shot, a little bit more shadow and contrast. So I'm gonna ask Lieselot, can you give me the flash bender, please? Stay. Now this must be one of my favorite modifiers. This is a flash bender, and this is from Expo Imaging. Now one of the cool things about a flash bender is you can literally bend light. Now that's not possible, right? Einstein actually said it was. So it is. I'm just kidding with you guys. Now a modifier is something that modifies the light, right? You have softboxes, snoots, reflectors. You can use whatever you want as long as it modifies the light. This one, the cool thing is, if you place it like this, you have a normal bounce card, meaning light goes up, reflects back on the model. But you lose a lot of power. So what you can better do is bend it like this, and the light will literally go to the model in full power, meaning it will save you a lot of power output. The other thing is you can also bend the sides. And of course, you can even, if you want, make it like a snoot, where you can actually fold it together. Now the cool thing about this flash bender is the coating. This is a silvery white, a soft silver. And this one doesn't exist yet. Well, actually it does. And it took a long while because there were some problems with images on the packaging, which has now been resolved because we wanted to give you great images on the packaging. And this is a very special flash bender. It has my name on it. It's a signature version, and they will be available in stores probably by the time you see this. So approximately now. Our versions are actually on the way, will be here in about 2 weeks. So that's going to be a really new flash bender. So please buy them, because otherwise they will never ask me again for a product. No, I'm just kidding with you guys. Okay, the first thing you have to do is make sure that the head of your strobe is all the way up. A flash bender isn't, well, it is very light, but it isn't incredibly light. So if you have your strobe set up like this, and you don't have a very solid strobe, like these can take a lot of power, a lot of weight, but there are a lot of strobes that can't take that weight. So as soon as you flash bender up, your strobe will actually go like this. And it will slowly fall down. So put it all the way up. And that's why we use boom arms, because now we can actually use the boom arm to change the strobe. Okay. The connection is very simple. You see this little band, it has Velcro, and it has a little bit of a, how do you call this?
Ring.
A ring, a walkthrough, a whatever thing, a tightening knot, whatever. It has something on the other side where you go through with your Velcro. So you just put it on like this. You take your Velcro, and you go through the loop, and you tighten it. There we go. Now I have a simple bounce card, which I don't like. I don't want that bounce card. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to place this really close to the wall. And I'm going to aim this down. And now something ridiculous, right? This doesn't look right. Do you think so? No. No, it's weird, right? So let's change this a little bit around. And I'm going to use the flash bender by literally bending the light towards my model. I'm going to take it a little bit away from the background. There we go. And what I want to create is a sort of side lighting, effect. Now, of course, I have to meter the light. And because I have to meter the light, I will actually need my remote control again. And now with small strobes, you can't avoid this problem unless the new system that Forex is coming out with will actually have to trigger inside your light meter. That's going to be awesome. Okay, but for now I have to do it like this. Can you stand against the wall? Thank you. A little bit that way. Perfect. Okay, let's see what happens. 5.67. Now 5.67 means almost f8. So let's give it 1/3 extra. There we go. And now it should be f8 because 5.67 is 3/10 of an f-stop below f8. So now I'm on f8. Okay. There we go. And this is the fun part. You can do this while the model is not on the set and you will look like a real professional because every shot you take will have the proper exposure and they're not used to that anymore. Okay, look a little bit that way. Perfect. And now you have a really high contrast image with the light bouncing off the background. And you get something that's way cooler than we had before. Okay, let's try a little bit more. There we go. And as you can see, this looks way better. The only thing I'm missing is I want a little bit more power, a little bit more spice in the image. And this is where the light blaster comes in. Do we have any questions, Menno? No questions in the chat? Great. So I think I'm explaining stuff pretty well. I hope so. Okay guys, so this is where I got a lot of questions about the light blaster. We started using them about, I think, 2-3 weeks ago. And in all honesty, I'm totally in love with it. It's a very simple device. You just mount it on your strobe. And inside is actually a gobo. And I will show you how it looks. So I'm going to walk towards Enoweek's camera. This is the gobo we're going to use now. But they have slides and gobos. This is one of the metal gobos, which I like in the small flash. There we go. Just click it in. And in the front, you need a lens. Now, standard, you use a Canon lens, a Canon normal mount, and you have to make sure that the lens is manually focusable. You hear me? Manually focusable. Now, why is that? Because there's no camera behind it, right? Now, as far as I know, all lenses can be manually focused, so don't worry about it. But there's a switch on this one, autofocus, manual focus. The other thing that you have to make sure of is that the lens has a wide aperture. So this is a 1.8, and that's okay. A 2.8 is okay, but as soon as you go to the 3.5s or 5.6, imagine this, the strobe will give you power, a lot of light, right? But if you use a 1.4 or 1.8, that light is transmitted directly to the model. But it's already losing power because officially on 0 or 1, depending, you will get a lot of light. You get the same amount of light. Now, as soon as you start taking away light, that will actually reflect back on your model, meaning if I shoot with a 5.6 lens, there will be very little light reaching the model. If I'm shooting with a 1.4, a lot of that light will reach the model. The other thing you have to realize, if you're using slides, put them in upside down. Now, it looks weird, or sorry, it sounds weird, right? Because if you put it down the correct way and you put a lens in front of it, why shouldn't it be projected correctly, right? Well, this is simple nature. The lens reverses the image. But in this case, with the gobos, it doesn't matter. Now, connect the lens, and you can do it with all Canon lenses. And if you have a Nikon, no problem at all. You can just use a converter from Canon to Nikon. And because it's a manually focusable lens, and also manual aperture, you will have no problem at all with converters for M42 or Leica or whatever, but those lenses are often not as light, as fast as these lenses. So what lens do I use? You can use the Canon 50 1.4 or 1.8 Plastic Fantastics. The 1.4 actually is a glass lens. I use the, I believe the Yongyo. That's about 65 euros. And hey, I'm Dutch, so we bought the cheapest lens available. And the quality doesn't matter at all, because it's only used as a gobo. Okay, so let's see what we can do. So let's aim this straight at our model. Turn on the strobe. Now I already told you, group A is my main strobe. Group B will be my second strobe. Now the photics is set up and group A is now already set up on f8, which is awesome because that's the exposure I need. The second group I don't know yet, and I can't meter it. Because it's a gobo, if I use a light meter, there's a big chance I'm metering in the blacks or I'm metering in the lights. So this is where in the old days we actually used Polaroids to see what's happening. Nowadays we have a 46 Polaroid behind Enoweek, 46 inches, a big screen monitor. So let's just start very simple and let's see what happens. There we go. Now this is probably way too bright. Let me see. There we go. This is way, way too bright. So let's tone that down. So let's go to select. Let's go all the way down. I just want a subtle effect. Okay, there we go. This is way better. The only thing is, if you look at this, the pattern isn't completely around my model. Now this is one of the problems you will encounter a lot. On studio strobes, where you can also mount the light blaster, you can use a converter kit. And then you can use the modeling light very briefly to see where you're pointing, and you can also use the focus and defocus. On the small strobes, you can on Canon use the modeling light by using the depth of field preview, and the strobe will actually start strobing and you can see it like a modeling light. On Nikon, there should be a similar option. On Sony, I didn't find it yet. So what I have to do is I have to wing it. So I will just move this a little bit down, and because I know I have more than enough power, I will move it all the way down. I will still aim it straight at my model. I will just eyeball it. There we go. I will give a little bit more power because I moved it all the way back. Let's give it one stop more. I love that. Very nice. There we go. That's much better. The only thing is now at the top there's this big white area. Now that's of course from the flash bender. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim this a little bit more down. That's why we love the boom arms. Okay, there we go. And of course I'm standing in front of it. Now that's what much better. Okay, so let's see what we have now. There we go, love this. I can take a little bit down. Now this is like a chef. I am creating my look. Like when you're cooking, you just throw in a little bit more salt or a little bit more pepper until you got what you want. Okay, can you look a little bit more towards the light? Awesome. So I want, of course, my light blaster to be just as a fill-in, a little bit of an effect. There we go, that's cool. Now as you can see, all the patterns are sharp. I don't want them sharp. I want them a little bit out of focus. And this is cool because I have a manual focusable lens. I can actually turn the dial on the lens and actually defocus the image. Okay, make sure that I'm not in front of it. There we go. And now we have that very subtle look that, like, I don't know what's going on, something is going on, but I just can't put my finger on it. Oh, I changed something on the camera. Sorry guys, one moment. That's my fault. Okay, can you look a little bit that way? Perfect. And of course you should do this before you start shooting with your model. But in this case, because we're doing a digital classroom, we're doing it live. Okay, looks pretty nice. I like the way that it's now like in the background, the light blaster is taking the lower part and the flash bender is taking the top part. Now let's make it a little bit more interesting by going a little bit lower in angle. There we go. Very nice. Look a little bit down. That's awesome. I love that pose. Very cool. Look a little bit up towards the light. Very nice because we want that light in our eyes. Awesome. Now let me see. I can actually use a little bit more on the left side of her. So let's change that. Just point the light blast a little bit more to the side. Okay, same poses, love those. Always tell your models he's doing fine, he's doing great, even if she doesn't. You are, by the way. There we go, and now we have the effect on the sides. So let me see, Anne, can you move a little bit to the side so I can see? Okay, now let's defocus it a little bit more. To give it a little bit more of a surreal effect. Okay. That's nice. Okay, now Kimberley, can you look all the way there? And as soon as I say yes, turn around very violently that we see your hair blowing in the wind without a wind machine. 1, 2, 3, go. Nice, and do that one more time. 1, 2, 3, go. Awesome. And keep your hands a little bit wider. I'm gonna shoot it. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3, go. There we go, that's awesome. So now I can have a really nice dynamic image, and I have something in the background that's a little bit different. Now, if you don't like the effect, you can always change the effect. You can use different gobos, you can use whatever you want. But let's try it a little bit from here. Let's see what we can do even more. So can you stand against the background? Very nice, and now look all the way down. Let's give it a little bit more spice. So now we have without the light blaster in the image. So you can see a more high contrast image, but you still see a little bit of the detail of the light blaster. So when I'm standing here, let's give it a little bit more. As you can see, I'm just playing with it. This is not science, this is not, this is right, this is good. Some people will say, oh, I like it a little bit less. Some people will say, I like it a little bit more. This is all up to you. Eyes straight ahead. That's nice. Eyes a little bit more towards the light. Really cool. Okay, can you look a little bit more there? Awesome. That's nice. As you can see, we're getting a little bit of lens flare. That's all intentional. I love lens flare. Great shots. Okay, now what will happen if I'm only using the light blaster as my main light source? So let's take this one out and turn it off. And let's just use only the light blaster to see what happens. And you can see that you can do some really funky stuff with it. So the first thing I have to do is, of course, put a little bit more power in it. There we go. And again, you can't meter this, so I will have to try a few test shots. As you can see, it's now a little bit too low. So I'm gonna aim it a little bit more up. And this is because at the first setup, we used the light blaster as a fill-in light. And now we're gonna use actually the light blaster as our main light source. Very nice. There we go. Now the trick is to get our face directly in one of the light areas and not in the dark areas. And as you can see now, our eyes are pretty much in that light area, so I have to do it a little bit like this. There we go. This is perfect. Keep it that way. Okay, can you do one more with the funky hair? Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, do it the other way around. Okay, let me pre-focus. 1, 2, 3, go. Nice, final one. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, the really final one. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, do something with your arms like you want to hit somebody, but just keep it like this. Yes. Okay, do it again with funky hair. 1, 2, 3, go. Great, and now chin up while you're doing that. 1, 2, 3, go. Awesome. Okay, stand against the wall and just cross your arms. As you can see, I said this is the final shot, this is the final shot, this is the final shot. And I keep repeating that because every time you say this is the final shot, she will just give a little bit more. She will just do a little bit more. And that's the cool thing about that's the final shot. But we're almost there, don't worry. Can you step a little bit that way? So this is the other way, right? I now know where my light areas are. I can of course move the light blaster, but if I move the light blaster, I'm never sure where the light areas will be. If I move my model, I do. There we go, so now straight in the middle of the light area. Now change your composition a little bit, like a little bit more to the right, and now I'm gonna do a little bit more to the left in my composition. There we go, awesome pose. This rocks, dude, girl, I mean. Okay, now if you think the effect is a little bit too strong, just use your defocusing again. Let's turn it all the way down. Let's see what happens. So this is really sharp. It's actually pretty nice. Awesome. Chin up just a little bit. Okay, now turn it all the way out focus. And as you can see, you can just play with this. It's a really cool playing toy. That's not actually a toy, but you know what I mean. Awesome. Really nice. Okay, final shot. Great, so let's see what we can do in Photoshop with these images. So we're gonna switch to the computer and I'm gonna show you some tricks in Photoshop. So I'm gonna kick Menno out because I'm gonna sit there. So do we have any questions in between? No questions, okay. Awesome. Okay, so let's switch to my computer. There we go. Now, as you can see, I'm actually using Capture One. Now, why Capture One? Capture One is without a doubt one of the most stable systems to work in. And Capture One is also one of the systems that actually, with tethering, will never shut down. Okay. Now, during the workshop, during the first part, you actually saw me working with something called a light meter. Now, if you are confused by everything that I told you, like, okay, you have to do 1/3 of an f-stop, you have to do this, you have to do that, there's a video we created for this. It's called Mastering the Model Shoot the Light Meter. I'm going to show you the promo very quickly, and if you want to know more about the light meter, make sure you check out this. It will clear up a lot of questions you have about the light meter. Hey guys, my name is Frank Dorhoff and I'm the author of the book Mastering the Model Shoot. Now, you guys really like the book because we're getting a lot of rave reviews on Amazon and every other online store. So that actually triggered us to make a video series about the book. Now, in the first video, I will tell you everything about the light meter. Now, in digital photography, I think the light meter is the one thing that confuses people a lot. Shouldn't I use the histogram, Frank? Isn't there a meter inside the camera? Where do I point the meter? Towards the pretty girl? Towards the camera? Towards the light source? Where? There's a lot of confusion out there. Now, in this video, I will give you in more than 70 minutes all the insights out about the light meter. Calibrating, using incident and reflective, using a white background, how to keep details in the black, how to trigger the meter, where to point the meter. You will see everything very easily explained, but you will also see photo shoots including our model Manon. This is one of the videos if you're slightly interested in the light meter, or if you already have a light meter and you want to know everything about it, get this video. It's called Mastering the Model Shoot, the Light Meter, and it's the first video in a whole series that we're going to release in connection to our book Mastering the Model Shoot, and it's available now from our website. Okay guys, and we're back, and I see some questions coming in. Now, pancake lenses need more power to focus, 40mm and 24mm. Now, I know it's about the light blaster probably. Now, the pancake lenses are pretty cool. However, you don't need power to focus. You do everything manually because there's no motor inside the light blaster. It's just a projector. So with the projector you actually bounce light through the lens up until the wall, and that's where the gobo is actually showing. So you don't need power. So pancake lenses can work very well. Now, 40mm and 24mm. Now, I use a 50mm. That means that I get a nice spread, and I can also use it in close-ups and a little bit further away. If you use a 24mm, you need to use it very close to the model because you will have a wider spread. If you use a 70mm, you will actually move it all the way back in the studio, and it also means that you lose a lot of light during the transition between the distance of your model and the background. The distance of the background and your light blaster. So 50mm actually works pretty good. Okay, now let's see what we can do in Photoshop. Now, the first thing I always do is select my images. Now, I'm very strict in this. If I don't like an image, I will take it away immediately. Now, this one I don't like, this one I don't like. This is the first one I liked, but it's not perfect, so take it out. Same here, composition-wise. No. This one begins to look pretty nice. Now, the first thing I always do is I will check with the loupe if my eyes are in focus. As you can see, that's pretty much the case. Now, a lot of people ask me, why Capture One? Well, you can see the speed now. Look at this. Boom. And it's sharp immediately. Now, if you do this on Lightroom, you have to double click and you will see Lightroom very slowly. You will see the beach ball and you will see Lightroom rendering and rendering. Now, I love Lightroom for its all cataloging stuff. That's awesome in Lightroom, but Lightroom for me is a little bit slow when I shoot. Plus sometimes it just goes wrong with it. So that's actually why I prefer Capture One also. The other thing about Capture One is actually pretty nice. Let's see what's going on with my audio, guys. One moment. I get a lot of static And Awik, can you check what's going on with the audio? Because there's a lot of static going on. Okay, there we go. Should be okay now, guys. Sorry for that. Okay, so Capture One is not only very fast with tethering, but also when you do a preview like this, boom, it's immediately there. The other thing is you can look from the back and in the studio and actually see immediately if something is in focus, because I go to View and I'll actually go to Show Focus Mask. Now, as soon as I use Focus Mask, everything that's green is actually in focus or has high contrast, meaning that it should probably be in focus. And you can very quickly also see this now in all the previews, and you can even use the loop on a preview. Now, this is so much better to see if an image is sharp than using Lightroom. And again, I love Lightroom, don't get me wrong, I really, really do, but not for shooting tethered and if I want stuff quickly done. So I always tell people Lightroom is where my images live. This is where all my images stay and where I use smart albums and where I use everything else. But in Lightroom, I don't do my editing. Okay, so let's say I like this image. I will give it 5 stars. Now let's do this one. I don't like this one that much. This one is a little bit over, but maybe it's cool. Take this one out. No, too dark on the eyes, as you can see. Too dark on the eyes. This is where we were actually setting up everything. Don't like this one, don't like this one. This one is okay. This one is better. No, too dark in one of her eyes, as you can see here. This is very, very dark, so we don't, that's better. That's better. Love this shot. But it's still, there we go. This is nice. I don't like her arm here per se. It's a little bit too much in the front. It's a little bit too scared. There we go. Here we have the first movement images. Love this one. This is from the side. Really like this one. Give it 5 stars. I love that one. So these I can take out. These are a little bit too dark around the eyes. Really like this one. This one is better. Give it 5 stars. Now see the difference in her eyes. As you can see here, you hardly see any eyes. If I zoom in, I can see her eyes, so this is okay. But if you look at the next one, you can actually, without zooming in, already see her eyes. But still, I like the expression in this one a little bit better with her mouth. So take that one. Okay, this one can go. This one can go. Here we go. This is better. No, don't like that one. Now you can see that she's in the middle of the light. So the first one can actually go. This one is cool. Let me see, we have something that's really nice. The boxing shots. Love this one. This one is better. So take that one. Here we moved around just a little bit with composition. Really like that one too. This one is a little bit better composition wise. Here you can see the patterns better, and I love the shadow on the background of her face. That's awesome. This is okay. No, don't like the shadow on her nose. Don't like the nose shadow. This one is okay, but not stunning. This one looks a little bit like Goofy. No, not Goofy, Pluto. The dog from Mickey Mouse. That's pretty nice. I'm not going to retouch that one, but it looks a little bit like that. Okay, now we see the nose again. The nose shadow I don't like that much. Okay, so here we have the same thing, nose shadow. Should have coached that a little bit better. Okay, so I made my selection. Now go all the way to the front again. So now we have our selection here. So we have 1, 2, 3. Like that one better than this one. Let me see if that's really true. Yep, I like this one less. So let's give that a 0. Now if I have to choose between these two, I will actually select this one. Let me see. Yep, so take that one out. This is how my whole process goes. I will very quickly just go through the images, and then later on in my selects I will be a little bit more like going from one to another. Like this one, no, the other one was better. And I love this one. This is really cool. And this one was the first. Okay, so because I use a light meter, I don't have to do anything else in Capture One. I don't have to change my exposure. I don't have to change shadows and highlights. So everything looks okay. Now in Capture One, you can actually here go to the, I don't know, the gear, and you can create a so-called recipe. As you can see here, Frank to Photoshop. Now what does it do? It will give me a TIFF 16 bits uncompressed with a camera profile, ISOC profiling in camera. You can of course also say, because I like that a little bit more, is I want Pro Photo RGB. So there we go. And open it in Adobe Photoshop. Now this is the open with. You of course have to tell it where should I put it. Well, it puts it somewhere, but where? In this case, it will select my root folder, Retouch Capture 1. This is Dutch bewerken, but it means retouch. Okay, so now I know where my images go, and the only thing I have to do is press Command D. Now, if I press Command D, it will open up in Photoshop. In between, if you have any questions, by the way, guys, feel free to ask. Because I see the chat room is still active, so you guys are sitting there, and feel free to ask any questions. Okay. So it's now doing its, how do you call it, its raw processing, and it will open up Photoshop. And I'm going to freak out a little bit with this image with tinting in a moment. Let me see why Photoshop isn't starting. Ah, there we go. I was a little bit too fast. Okay. Now the first thing I always do is skin. Now Kimberley has a pretty good skin. If you zoom into 100%, you can actually see she hardly needs any skin work. Now, if a model has skin like this, don't touch it. Stay away from it. Don't use any filtering. The only thing you can do is use the healing brush, as you can see here, and just very simple, just take away some of the areas where you think like, oh, that could use a little bit of help. But see, it's perfect skin, so don't touch it, because you can only destroy it. A filter will never make it better, unless it's worse. Now I feel like a little bit like Bob Ross sometimes, just painting around here, and we love Bob Ross, of course. In case you guys don't know him, find him on the internet. It's an old painter. There you go. Now I told you guys don't use filters, but as you can see in a moment, I am going to use a filter, but I'm going to use it very, very lightly. This actually looks bad, so let's go back. It actually was better than before. And as you can see, sometimes when I'm talking, I don't pay enough attention to what I'm doing. But luckily we have the go back in time feature, or in other words, the undo. Nice. Okay, so now normally for skin work we use image-nomic portraiture, which is a great tool for skin work to make the skin a little bit more even. But normally it also takes out some pores and details. In this case we don't want that. So we need to set up image-nomic portraiture a little bit else. What I want to do is I will just smoothen this out. So just go to filter, if you have the filter image-nomic portraiture. Now this is one of the filters without any doubt I would advise you guys to buy. It's one of the best tools I think for skin. Okay, go to 100%. And now you just press this little picker, and we'll just use and select some skin tones. There you go. Now before and after, as you can see, it does it very, very slightly. But it just takes off the edge a little bit here, and this is what I like about the filter. It's hardly noticeable, but as you can see, especially here in the chin, it just does it a little bit better than I did with the healing brush. So with normal skin, you will do it a lot more. But with a model that has perfect skin, like Kimberley, you do it a little bit less. Or actually you don't do it at all and you only use it to smooth out. Okay, so now the filter is on the background copy here, the top layer. So if I turn this off and on, you can actually see that it changes the skin. Now the advert for image-nomic portraiture tells you don't need anything else. We selected the skin tones for you. And that's pretty cool, but it also isn't true. Because there are also skin tones in her hair, for example. If you look here, you can see that it looks a little bit mushy. Now if I take this down, there we go. Now we can see all the detail in the hair again. So although it says on the brochure it only takes the skin, it also takes, of course, a little bit of the hair. Because let's be honest, a filter isn't intelligent. It can be very intelligent, but it looks at colors. It looks at certain areas, and in this case the areas are the skin. But it only looks at color, so it will also affect the hairs. So what do? Very simple. In Photoshop there's a really cool trick called layer masks. Now don't freak out, layer masks are incredibly simple. You go here into layer, you go into layer mask, and you have two options, reveal all or hide all. Now reveal all means show everything, and hide all means hide everything. So I'm going to do hide all. And now everything is gone. And I can see a black piece of paper over here. Now if a black piece of paper hides everything, a white piece of paper of course shows everything. So if I have a black piece of paper and I use a brush and I select the white color and I go to my opacity to 100%, I would actually be able, of course, to paint the effect in. There you go. Awesome. Now this is probably a really cool trick for people who never saw this before. If you already saw this before, don't worry, I have a lot more tricks coming up. Make sure that you also take her arms, décolleté, and everything else. But watch out with the hairs, just a little bit. There we go. Now if you want to see very quickly what you did with your painting, you can actually go here and press the Alt key. And now you can actually see that I was a little bit messy. There we go. If you want to select this, you can use the Command key. And so you have all these options. So Alt key and Command key are very interesting. Okay, let's deselect. Okay, I'm okay with this. It looks pretty nice. So let's just layer flatten image. Now this hair actually annoys me. So let's go to 100%. And of course you can take this away a few ways. You can of course clone, but never do that on skin because it looks terrible. You can use the healing brush. You can do this and just take it out. That works pretty well. But Photoshop has a really cool feature, and that's called content aware fill. Now over here you can see the quick mask. Just press it and you see that nothing happens, right? So people go like, why is there a quick mask? Well, you have to take a brush, make it a little bit smaller, and just paint. Everything you don't like, you paint over. We also call this sometimes the mother-in-law filter. Oops. That was a joke. There we go. Now you do this, and you have to remember, you have to invert this selection. Select invert. For the very simple reason, otherwise you press delete, and trust me, everything will be gone except the area that you want gone. So now press delete or backspace and make sure that you use color adaptation and content aware. Press OK. And now as you can see, it takes away everything. And this goes way faster than using only the healing brush or the clone tool. It wasn't perfect. It's never perfect, by the way. You always have to do a little bit yourself. But the end result is often much better when you use the content aware fill than if you use the healing or clone tool. Okay, there's another thing, and that's really important if you want to be somebody who's being hired again. These areas on her shirt. So just make sure that you take away those little annoying white thingies. I don't know how to call them, thingies. Of course you can use something before the photo shoot to make sure that this doesn't happen, but most of the time it will. So don't worry about it and just take it out. Same goes here. Now don't make her too perfect, always leave one or two of these in, for the very simple reason, if it looks too perfect, people will go like, oh, she's photoshopped. If you leave one or two mistakes in, people will go like, ooh, she has a really cool skin. And by the way, never tell your model what you changed. Because sometimes a model is very enthusiastic about the photo shoot and then you go like, you know what, I did this and this and this because you have a little bit of a loopy eye. I don't know how you pronounce that. But you know what I mean, right? Don't tell your model, just tell her you were perfect and we just changed it a little bit. Don't make her too uncomfortable. Okay, there we go. So this is actually everything I do in Photoshop. I don't do anything else except for one thing, and this might be the biggest secret I have and I want to share with you guys. I do tinting. Now what is tinting? Tinting is something I do because I love analog photography, and with analog photography you choose your film roll before you started to shoot. With digital you can't. But first we have to take this out. As you can see here, we take the lasso tool and we just select this area, and we do the same thing with content aware fill. Now I want to show you a very simple trick. Now some people freak out because they use, for example, a second layer and they want to do the same thing. So now you press delete and nothing happens. And that's pretty obvious because what you actually did is you remove that part because you're on a separate layer. So let's do undo clear. Now according to some, content aware fill will only work on the bottom background layer, and this is not true. What you can do here is you can actually use something called fill. You can actually go here, fill, and now you can also use content aware fill and press OK. Takes a little bit of time, and there we go, and gone is our problem. And as you can see, there's a pretty good job here. We have a little bit of a problem, so we're going to take a big healing brush and we just paint the problem out. There we go. Awesome. And now, ladies and gentlemen, how do I tint? In the past, I used a lot of alien skin exposure, and then I switched back to DxO Film Pack because DxO Film Pack in that period was actually better. But nowadays, with the new Alien Exposure X, Alien Exposure is on top of their game again. They have an amazing plugin. So let's go to Filter Alien Skin and go to Exposure X. There we go. Now I have all these different settings which I actually created myself, and the fun part is if you just hover over you can now see the previews. It goes really fast. Even when I'm streaming my desktop now, this is a 42 megapixel file, you can see it's blazingly fast, way faster than before. So I love this shot. Now the only thing that I changed is just a little bit, just see the before and after. I will just give it a little bit of a red push and just a little bit of contrast. The only thing is I don't like this area here. I would love a little bit of lens flare there. And I didn't shoot it with lens flare. So let's go to lighting effect. And go to my overlays. Sorry, I have to turn on overlays and go to lighting effects. Now this is terrible, of course. You move it up, terrible. So let's go to sun flares. And let's take a really nice one. For example, I want a white one, of course, because I want it natural. This one is pretty cool. Now move it to the side where it is, as you can see here. But I don't like this that much. So I can zoom it out. And just give it this effect and now lower the opacity a little bit. There we go. Now, of course, this is a little bit too much for me. So let's change it back. So let's go to some other options. Maybe light beams or light... Oh, this is nice. It's like there's smoke. Told you guys, we're going to do some smoke. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, let's take it down, zoom it up a little bit. Do you like this? No, we don't like this. As you can see, I'm also here. I'm very picky about what I use and what I don't. Let me see if we have something that's surrounding outside. Sun flare is actually best. I like the corner one. There we go, that's cool. Okay, let's see what we can do with zoom. Just zoom it out a little, zoom it in. There we go. And change the opacity back. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of a fill in. As you can see, there were a little bit of problems over here because I cloned out my strobe. So with 0 you can still see that there's a little bit of shop work here. And I can clone that out, but why not just give it a little bit of atmosphere here by just adding a little bit of a sun flare from Alien Skin and press apply. Okay. And do a layer flatten image and save this image, file close. Okay, let's do one more. And we're going to do a little bit more extreme there. So let's take one of these, and I love the one with a very harsh shadow, this one. Okay, now because I didn't use a light meter here, I have to bump up the exposure just a little bit. Now let's say that you only want to bump up the exposure actually on the face, because everything else looks pretty cool. Now in Capture One and in Lightroom you have the so-called adjustment brush. In Capture One we have this, and we can actually add a layer, use a brush and just go over her face like this. There you go. And I will just bump the exposure a little bit, bump a little bit of the shadows, take the exposure down, add a little bit of contrast, and there we go. So before and after. Now you will see a little bit of ring here, and because she isn't a saint, I think, let's take that out. So I'm going to erase the mask. There we go. Looks pretty convincing, just like I did it right. Okay. Press Command D to go into Photoshop, because that one is still active, that process recipe, as you can see here. As you can see now it's rendering everything, and now it will open up in Photoshop. There we go. Now because I already did the skin correctly, the only thing I have to do is do Portrait Smooth. And this is an action I wrote, and the action is actually duplicate the current layer, run portraiture in the same setting you did before, select that layer as your background copy, and at that time just make a new layer. Now quickly checking the chat room, guys. Are you still having great audio and video? Okay, there we go. Now because it already created that layer, the only thing I have to do is take a brush and just paint the effect in. And as you can see, I do this really rough. There we go. Okay, and flatten the image. Now why do I flatten the image? Very simple. I flatten the image because I already know that I have my setting correctly. And if I know that I have my setting correctly, I will flatten my image, because otherwise I will have a lot of information here and my computer will actually slow down. And there's one thing that I hate, and that's a slow computer, or computers that don't have power. That's also very irritating, because we started an hour later because of a power outage. Okay, so let's go to 100%. There we go. And just very quickly, remember, check these. Okay, audio and video are good. Thank you, guys. We have a delay of about 20 seconds, which is normal for YouTube Live. So that's why I responded a little bit later to you guys. But thank you for checking. Okay. And we're constantly trying to up the quality. As you can see, we now have full HD. No, of course not. We have 720p going down the internet connection. So we got a slightly faster internet connection than last time. So we're going to try to up that every time. And at one point we're going to broadcast in 180p. That will take a little bit of a time. That will probably take another 6 months before they do fiber over here. So at the moment we're actually using 4Gs to broadcast, which is pretty fast for us, because we are used to ADSL, which is incredibly slow over here. As you can see, I'm just taking out some minor problems, which actually aren't models problems, but are more like stray hairs and a little bit of maybe Hershey's chocolate or whatever. There we go. Okay, looks pretty cool. Fit on screen. Now what I want to do is I want to make that background pop really, really hard. So I'm going to make a background copy, and I'm going to use a filter from a very, very cool company, MacFun. And as you can see, I'm using the whole creative kit, and one of the things that I love is Intensify. Now I'm going to show you this, and in between I'm going to show you something, because we made a deal with MacFun. We have an amazing deal for you guys for their whole creative suite, and you can find it actually over here, www.frankdoorhof.com/MacFun. And they have a really cool discount, and they change that every month, so make sure that you don't miss it. So let's wait a minute. Okay. There we go. So I'm here. So these are my presets, and what I will do is I will choose the Poppy Trauma tree. Boom, there we go. Now what you can see in the background is that it will actually enhance those rings, but also the structure of my wall, but also here her clothing. So press apply. Now this is a filter that's a little bit more heavy on the computer, so it will take a little bit of time. And there we go, Intensify. Cool. Now I don't want it on everything. I don't want it on the model and her skin. I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is a layer mask, reveal all, show everything. Now I have a white piece of paper, and I'm going to use actually a black brush, and I'm going to take the effect out her skin, her clothing, and of course her arms. You can do this pretty rough, because as you can see there are shadows here, so it won't be too noticeable that you take something out. Make sure you don't forget small areas. So this is where the trick with that mask actually comes in pretty handy. So just press here. Ah, there we go. So I forgot. And that was, again, use the Alt key. And now I can actually paint in the effect where I don't want it. Looks pretty. It reminds me of Bohemian Rhapsody of Queen. Weird. Okay. Layer, flatten image. Now let's make this a very, very strong black and white. I love the shot, or should we leave it in color? I think we should leave it in color. Yeah, let's leave it in color. So let's go to alien skin again, and let's go to exposure X. And indeed, I also think the model did just fine. We see something in the chat going on, and the model is awesome. Kimberley, you are awesome. Okay. Now it will always remember what you did before. So I want to move out. Ooh, look at the black and white. That's pretty cool. Here we have the same thing, but it's a little bit too much. Oh, love this. This is amazing. We're going to show you a trick in a moment for this one. Okay, red pop, no. It's a little bit too extreme. I like it a little bit more subdued in color. There we go. This is nice. Slightly toned down. But this is a little bit too bright. Now the fun part is you can always change your settings. So let's change the setting to exposure just a little bit more down. There we go. Just lower the saturation a little bit. Add a little bit of contrast. And go down maybe on the vignetting a little bit more. So let's go. Let's turn on vignetting. Love this, very nice. And of course you can also put vignetting location, but we don't need it in this case. Now let's say you want a little bit more out of focus areas here. Okay, and normally I don't do this, but with this kind of stuff we just love it. You can of course do a lens wrap or sharpen. You can use a preset, but what you can also do is just do it yourself. So this is the sharpness. You can, you know, it's nice, but the blur, as you can see. Now this is focus itself, but we're not going to use this one. We're going to use something that's pretty cool, and we call this bouquet or bouquet or whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to go in this case for the tilt and shift option. So I'm actually going to take this here, turn it, make sure that her face is totally sharp. Now we're just going to do it very, very over the top. There we go. Make sure that her face is sharp. Okay. And now we're going to tone down the effect a lot and just give it in a little bit. That's already too much. Zoom. No, that's a little bit uneven. What I want to do is just take the edge off. There we go. And press apply. And oh, don't overdo this, because then you're just what I sometimes call Instagramming a shot. And Instagramming a shot isn't a positive thing if I say that. I love Instagram, but Instagramming a shot actually means you're making something worse. So I love this shot. Very, very nice now. Okay, layer, flatten image, and file, close. Now I want to show you a little trick that we do in Capture One, which is amazing. Now, it's not an amazing trick, but it's amazing that the program can do it. As you can see, I have two more options, Frank TIFF and Frank Internet, or in this case, Internet. Now, Frank TIFF is a really nice one. It will make an uncompressed 16-bit TIFF with ProPhoto RGB, and it will store it in a final folder. The Internet version will make a JPEG on A78 sRGB, longest edge 1250, and will store it in the Internet Klaar, which means Internet Ready folder. Now I have to select my images, so I'm going to go to Bewerken. So let's move all the way over here. Select the two from today. There we go. And the only thing I now have to do is just press Process or Command D. And it will do everything I selected. So with Lightroom I have to do this 3 or 4 times. First for Internet, then for the TIFF, and maybe if you want a video version or whatever. But in this case, it's very, very easy to do just a few together. So sometimes we have to make 4 versions. Now in Lightroom I have to do that over and over again. In Capture One I can just do it very quickly. Okay. So we now have the final, where we actually see the shots. Let me see where they appear. Here we go. So we have this shot, which is now the final TIFF. And we have this shot. But if I go to my desktop, and I go to the Internet Klaar folder, Oops, I have to drag it over here. I also have these shots. Now, one of the most important things that a lot of people forget is make sure that you use your internet community for you. So if we go to Google, Google is my main, how do you call it? My main area to post something. And I think we still have a problem with the power because my internet isn't working. But that's only on my computer, luckily, because the other one works. Let's see. Well, anyway, normally you just go to Google. Oh, let me see what's going on here. Ah, that's weird. Okay, anyway, guys, so normally you go to Google, you upload your image to Google, and you make sure that at that time it's via, for example, if this then that. That's a software tool in which you can actually tell Google that if something is posted on Google, it will also automatically be posted on your Facebook, on your Twitter, and whatever. So at that point, you actually see your images, which is pretty nice. Okay, so let me see if everything is back in working order again. Yep, so we're ready for the second setup. But first I want to show you something from our main sponsor, which is of course BenQ. So I'm going to show you the monitor I'm using. I'm using a 27-inch Adobe RGB, which I really like. And I'm going to show you very quickly a small intro for their monitor. So here we go, enjoy. Hey guys, my name is Frank Dorff and I want to tell you today about the new 27-inch monitor from BenQ. Now, I'm a fashion photographer and I like my colors to be as they are in real life. Because I do my best to light my scene correctly, to style the scene, to have great makeup, great model. And then I see my images on a monitor and they look like, well, very dull. Well, that can happen to you too, and it will probably happen to you. You know the problem? Your monitor is not up to spec. Now, a monitor isn't a monitor. It's not something that just shows you the image. There are many different kinds of monitors. Like TV sets, your very expensive ones will give you better image quality, right? Now, with computer monitors, we always tell people it's all about the color space. For example, you have an sRGB monitor, or for the professionals, an Adobe RGB monitor. But if you don't know what that means, it doesn't make any sense. Now, let me make it simple. These are the colors in real life. So this is what you capture, right? It's great, it's vibrant, it's saturated, it's real life. Now, an sRGB monitor, it's really small color space. And that's okay for the web or for a laptop or just simply browsing your images. But if you want those more vibrant colors, you need something a little bit bigger. And that's an Adobe RGB color space. It's just a bigger color space. But it also means that the monitor has to show those colors. Now, in the past, those monitors were pretty expensive, especially a 27-inch. And BenQ really made me enthusiastic about this monitor because it's very affordable. It's delivered with a hood. So, in other words, it will cut down on your glare. And it's, well, I can give you all the bells and whistles about it. Like, it has all the inputs you need. It has all the specs. It's 99% Adobe RGB. But in the end, it all boils down to one thing: image quality. And I'm very picky, and as you can see, it's my main editing monitor at the moment. So I'm very enthusiastic about the monitor. If you are looking for a great monitor and you want something in the 27-inch and you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on it, check out the new BenQ 27-inch. And for me, the most important thing is that it has a hardware calibration option, meaning you use their own software and you use a calibrator. And you can really make sure that the reds are as red as they are intended. Now, I know a lot of monitors come with this sheet, like, I'm calibrated in the factory. That's great, but it doesn't make any sense because your computer is different. So you have to recalibrate. Now, when do you recalibrate? I always recalibrate before a very important retouch session. For example, if I have to do a wedding or a fashion shoot, I will just let my monitor warm up for half an hour or an hour, do the calibration, and then I do my retouching. That way, I know for sure that my colors are accurate. So BenQ, job well done. I'm very happy with the monitor. And you guys, if you're in the market for a new monitor, check out the new BenQ series because they're really knocking one out of the ballpark with this series. Hoe lang? Ah, hij is live. Hey, we're live again. Sorry guys. So, for the next setup we're going to use the Allengram strobes. Now, I have an RX 600 here and we have connected a beauty dish with a grid. And we have a background. And we have a huge problem with this background. It's beautiful. But if you look closely, you can probably see that there's a really shiny area over here. Meaning, if I place my light on there, it will actually reflect. So let's see what happens if we put our model in front of it and we just go, I don't know. So we don't think about it. So let's see. Okay, Kimberley, are you ready? She is. Amazing. And you look stunning again. How do you do it? It's Nivea.
No, it's not.
No, I'm just kidding with you. Okay, Anouk, maybe you can move your camera over there so you can see me better so I don't have to turn around every time. And I'm now using a light meter, which is actually a new one from Sakonic. And the nice thing about this light meter is it has everything inside. So I hope you guys aren't getting seasick. Oh, you now changed to that camera? Really cool. So I'm standing here and Anouk is standing there. Which camera should I use? Menno? That one? Okay, so this is the new Sakonic one. And the nice thing about this one, it has a meter, of course, but it also has a radio trigger inside. And it means that if I press here, if I press here, of course, it will trigger the strobe if it's an Allengram. The other thing is, you can really go into the menu here on the gear, and you can actually change the output. And it will actually change it on the strobe. So that's a pretty cool feature. Okay, so what do? We meter the light because we didn't take any notice, we just shoot it. Okay, there we go. 16.2. We have a question.
For web publishing, do you export to sRGB or Adobe RGB?
Okay, the question is for web publishing, do I export to Adobe RGB or sRGB? For web publishing, we always use sRGB. sRGB, very simple because it's a smaller color space. It's a color space that actually works very well for internet. Adobe RGB works for some systems, but it doesn't work for all systems. Now, the problem with Adobe RGB is it's a huge color space. If you use a Mac and use Safari, it will actually do color management. But if you're on a PC, I don't know if Internet Explorer does it, or Edge as it's called now. So the best, safest bet is just do sRGB. And you know that on every device, the colors will look, well, approximately as they're supposed to look. But it's not perfect. So I wish for a time where there is only Adobe RGB online. But that time is still a little bit far away. Okay, you change to that camera again? Cool. I can't see any lights on the camera, so I have to guess. So we have 16.2. Let's try that again. If it's still 16.2, it is. So I'm going to change the output. So I'm going to go 3 clicks down. And that's cool because now in the display I can actually see that I'm 3 clicks down. I wait for the beep. I meter. There we go, 16. Okay. Take the camera. And now the first thing I have to remember we did small flash or speed lights. ISO 400, so now I have to go down to ISO 100, of course. And we have f16. Okay, first shot. Are you ready? Look a little bit there. Nice! I love this shot. And as soon as it comes in, you guys can see why I don't love this shot. It's an amazing shot, but you have this big, white, almost cloud behind my model, which is, well, horrendous. I don't like it at all. I can, of course, try to change. So I'm going to stand here. I'm going to do the same thing. Going to take the shot. And the weird thing is, you will see the cloud in exactly the same position. A little bit changed, but not much. Now, how is that possible? Very simple. This is reflection. Now, there's something called incident. The angle of incident is the angle of reflection, or just the other way around. We call it hoek van inval is hoek van uitval. But hey, that's Dutch. So let's try it from here. And now you can still see the light behind her. And you go like, what's going on? I'm shooting under a totally different angle, right? The problem is this. The light is reflecting. Oh, sorry. I almost hit my model. The light is reflecting on the background. So over here. So whatever I do, I will always get that nasty reflection. And this is very important if you shoot in areas where you actually see windows or I don't mean Windows 10, but if you see windows, or if you see reflective surfaces like with cars, you will always see that strobe. Sometimes it's cool, most of the time it's not. Same with people with glasses. If they look up, like Anouk, don't fall asleep. If you look up, you will actually see that she has reflections. Now if she looks down, and you don't see Anouk now, but if she looks down, the reflections are gone. That's because the angle is different. So how do I solve this? I can of course try to shoot straight on the same angle as my strobe. Let me see, let me squeeze in here. This can never be right, of course. And if it's not right, go left. And it's still in the frame. Oh my. But you see that it's a little bit less in the frame, right? So now we have to play with this. And one of the best things to play with it is just use your eyes. These two. Because if you use your eyes, you can actually see what you're doing. So, because now we have a lot of lights coming also from the LED lights, it's a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to move this around. And I'm actually seeing now where my reflection is. So I'm actually going to feather my light. And I'm going to still aim it straight on my model. There we go. If I leave the distance approximately the same, I don't have to remeter, but always do. Because if you do, you know exactly the correct exposure. 11.9. So just add 1/10 of an f-stop. Now some people say, Frank, really? 1/10 of an f-stop? You're really gonna adjust that? Let me put it this way. If you have the chance to get it perfect by one click, why not do it? If I have to walk 20 meters, forget it. Why should it be perfect? Okay, let's see. Okay, look a little bit that way. So now I'm actually feathering my light away from the background. And I'm having the reflection probably right up there. There we go, exactly as pronounced. Okay, now can you look straight at me? Now when I'm shooting straight on, which didn't work in the last time, and the reflection is totally gone. And this is because the angle of incidence is the angle of reflection. I now know for sure that that light will actually hit my model correctly. The only thing I now have to take out is that horrible nose shadow. So we'll move a little bit. Yes, there we go. Awesome. That's nice. I can now even do an almost all the way over there, and I still don't have that nasty reflection, as you can see. So if you realize this and really do this the correct way, there's no problem at all anymore in hiding those hiding those reflections. Okay, so let's move the light a little bit down. And let's start freaking a bit with this. Setup 1. Very straight on, very nice. I like this a lot. However, let's move the light even closer to my model. Change this just a little bit around. Okay, one moment guys. I'm gonna move this over here. Put it really nice here. Aim it down. There we go. Do I have to remeter? Same thing again. Yes, of course. Because you can. Okay, let's move this just a little bit this way. So now I'm literally like this. Now, some people ask me, if you feather like this, isn't the hot spot here instead of on the model? Yes, but there's no subject here. So if there's no subject here, I actually have to meter the light over here, and it's going to go to waste. The main thing about feathering is now the background gets a little bit less light, meaning the background gets a little bit more move, a little bit more interesting, as we would say. Are you having fun?
I'm having fun.
Me too. So, yes, we have a question. Error? So let me see what's going on here. It's still recording? Okay, no, we still have a correct stream, so there will be no problem. So the guys will still probably see it, because we're still streaming, so don't panic. We're just going to continue, and otherwise we're going to upload the recording. But I think we're still okay. Okay, so we actually, we can ask the chat room if they still have connection, but I think it's just a local thing for us. Okay, so we are metering again. I'm going to meter here. 16.3. So So we're going to down 1, 2, 3. Now I'm on F16. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you guys how much the light is here. 11, 11.6. So we're actually in the hotspot still. The only thing we now can do is move this a little bit further. There we go. Sounds new, right? Okay, 8.05. And over here we actually have now 11.7. So we have to remember this one. 11. And over here 5.6. So we have an enormous light fall off from the background to the front. So we're going to shoot this on f11. And we're just going to make some really nice shots here. Okay, first one. Okay, look that way. Very nice. Awesome. And as you can see, the background will probably be totally black now, because I'm taking away so much light from the background and only on my model that we have a model that's totally correctly lit, but the background is totally dark. I don't want this, of course. I want a little bit more light on the background. And this beauty disc indeed has a grid in it. That's one of the questions. Okay, 11.6, and the background meters approximately 8.03. That's 1.5 stop difference. So the background will be visible, but not much. So let's do it a little bit more. There we go. So we're going to meter here. 8.09, that's almost f11. And the model is f16. Okay, so this is, I think, the best setup for now. Okay, so I'm going to grab the camera. Oops. I'm going to go to f16. Okay, can you look that way? Awesome. And now we have just a little bit of the background in and just enough on the model. So that gives it a really nice look. Okay, I'm going to move here and I'm going to shoot on the way more contrast. So look all the way down. That's awesome. Look at the chin line, jawline, I mean. Chin line. What is a chin line? Do you know what a chin line is?
Maybe this?
I don't know. I never heard about a chin line. So that looks pretty nice. Let's get my chair to get a little bit of a lower perspective. Did the chat room say we're still live? Menno? Okay, cool. Okay, look all the way down. That's cool. Now, often compositional rules say that you should never have your model like this. Because if she looks like this, she should actually look out of the frame. Anyway, can you put the camera on me, please? So she should actually look into the frame. I don't agree. I agree with one point. If it looks right, it is right. And in this case, I really like her looking that way. We can do it also the other way. Can you look that way again? For example, I can do this. But for me, this is a little bit boring. It's compositional wise, it might be better. But I don't know. I like that tension. Do it again. There we go. Really nice. Okay, so now for the ultra high contrast, super duper amazing shot. Well, probably. Can you look a little bit down? And look a little bit more towards me. That's nice. Okay, look a little bit more towards the light. Perfect. A little bit more towards the light. As you can see, I'm constantly changing her a little bit. There we go. And now you have that high contrast look, which I really, really dig. Nice. Now let's go one step further. Let's remove the grid and let's go all out.
Be careful, it's hot.
No, it's not. Ow, ow, it's hot. No, I'm just kidding. We know what we're doing. We're trained professionals. It's not hot. Ah, there we go. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to meter two ways. The first way is the way that you often see, metering towards the light source, which is actually the correct way to meter, right? Because you have to meter towards the light source, because that's the way that you want your light. Now let's see if that really works. Kimberley's going like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I like it. Okay, let's go down to F16. There we go. So this is really cool, right? Inside you can adjust for the allengrams. Okay. And by the way, for people wondering, I'm shooting a Sony and I'm having the new Allengram Skyport on top. And some people will probably go like, what? That was only available for Canon and Nikon. I know, but Sony is following very soon. And to be totally honest, I'm still shooting with the Canon version. So I'm still shooting with the Canon version, but Sony is following pretty soon. And I can still trigger my strobes. So if you have a Sony and you also shoot with, for example, a medium format camera or a Nikon or a Canon, don't worry, you just get the Skyport for the camera that you use most. And you can still use it on the other cameras, but it will be in the dumb mode, meaning it will just trigger the strobe. So you can't do any of the funky stuff with high sync, and you can't do any of the other funky stuff with ODS. But in this case, it works pretty well, as you can see. Okay, look that way, please. Really nice. Love the shadows here. Really nice. So this is how you should normally shoot the image. Now, a lot of you guys will probably go like, yeah, Frank, but what's the difference? I see a little bit more background. That's, of course, because the grid is gone. But what is the main difference? Well, at the moment, there is no difference yet. I'm going to shoot a high contrast shot. You can see a little bit more background. Actually, the high contrast shoot doesn't look as interesting now as it did with the grid. But I'm going to show you something that will blow your mind. Now, the light meter is an incident meter reading. It meters the light falling on the subject. So I have to keep it in front of the area which I want correctly lit. Now let's say I want this area to be correctly lit, not this area. Meaning the background will actually blow out. The front won't. So watch this, what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the light meter, and instead of metering towards the light source, I'm just holding it in front of the area I want correctly lit. Now I have 5.62. 5.62 means 2/10 of an f-stop from 5.6. So let's go to f8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now I'm on f8. Meaning the center part of her face will be correctly lit if I shoot on f8. Okay, let's do it first from here. And I already tell you guys this will go totally wrong. Okay, can you look that way? Whoa! See? Is looking a little bit weird. Did you eat well?
I suppose.
I don't think so. You look totally white as a ghost. Oh my, but if you look very closely on her cheek, you can actually see that she's correctly lit, right? This is what an incident light meter reading does. It just gives you the correct exposure for that area. So if I shoot from here, can you look actually towards me now? Believe it or not, this part will be too dark, but the other part will just barely be visible, as you can see here. So I'm getting a totally different shot. Now what I'm going for is the totally over the look shot, over the edge shot. That's really amazing boom shot. So let's see what we can do now. Now I'm gonna go even further. I'm gonna really meter here. 2.85. That's 5/10 of an f-stop from 2.8, but also 5/10 f-stop from f4. So let's go up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm on f4. Okay. So let's take the camera and go to f4. Okay, can you look straight at me? Now I have that really blown out look on her face, on her sides, but her face is correctly lit. So this gives you a really nice edgy look. Now what I can do is I can actually use my chair, take a slightly lower angle, and shoot straight into my light source, including my model. And I get this really nice glamourly look. Okay, can you look a little bit that way? Perfect. Okay, this is a little bit too much in the overexposure. I'm gonna fix that in a moment. Can you look that way? Eyes towards me. A little bit more that way. Meet your nose. There we go, that's awesome, that's what I mean. Perfect, keep it that way. So now you can see that I'm actually having a little bit of problem with the dynamic range, but it's still within that part, but it's a very extreme shot. So this is going to be a black and white. But let's just settle in the middle. Now you remember it was f8 in the middle and f4 here. So let's go back to f8 and just lower it one stop. So we're going to go to F8, and then one stop down is 5.6. So I'm going to sit precisely in the middle. Can you look a little bit down? That's nice. Look a little bit there. Want a little bit of shadow in your eyes. That's nice. Now look towards the cubes. Stop. A little bit back, back, back. Stop. That's perfect. Eye center. That's nice. Keep it that way. Really nice. Okay, can you do the chin up? Close your eyes. Chin up all the way. All the way. Perfect. There we go. Final shot. Nice. Thank you. Okay, let's see what we can do with these in Photoshop, because we want to do a little bit of a freaky shot in post-processing with this. Okay, so I'm gonna kick Menno out of the way. Get out of my way. Now, Menno is a cool guy. Right, Menno? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, one of the things, guys, we really love you guys, and what I would love for you guys to do is actually subscribe to our YouTube channel. Because if you subscribe to your YouTube channel, you make possible that we can do this stuff. And you get alerts when we're offline and when we're online. So that's really an easy thing to do, and it's free. So make sure that you subscribe to our channel if you want. Okay, so let's take this out again. Oh, and by the way, for the Make Fun action, one of you guys asked. Here we go. This is the Make Fun action. So you go to my website /MakeFun, and you can actually see the discount code. Okay. Now, as you guys know, I will switch to a camera where you can actually see me. No, I don't have that camera here yet. Okay. So one of the things that I love to do is street and travel photography. And we actually made a video about this, and this is totally new for me. I never done a video on street and travel photography, and we loved shooting it. So I'm going to show you the trailer for it, and it's actually now available on our web store. So if you want to know anything about street and travel photography, make sure to check out the trailer and buy the video. Hey guys, my name is Frank Dorhoff, and this is our RV, our home on wheels. Now, as photographers, we love to take pictures on the road, right? But most of the times we just come home with snaps. Now, snaps are okay, but sometimes you want to get beyond the snaps. Now, this is where this video is all about. Going beyond the snaps. Street and travel photography with me, Frank Dorhoff. Now, what you will get in this video is a lot of information on using tripods, on using the right gear, using wide angles, long lenses, how to compress a scene, how to work with people, how to get to those beautiful... Oh man, it's just way too much. You know what? You just watch these little snippets from the video, and I'm sure you're gonna enjoy beyond snaps. One, two, one, two. There we have audio again. Somebody turned off the cameras. Excuse me, guys. So, I know that last part was a little bit cheeky in the RV, but it's still fun. Okay, so let's see what we can do in Photoshop with these. Actually, we're gonna do this in Capture One and not Photoshop. Okay, let me see where I left my Wacom. There we go. Okay, so this shot I actually really like. This one is a little bit, you know, I like this a little bit more. I like that wide area a little bit over. So, first some questions. Let me see. I have really difficulty to calibrate my light meter. Any advice? Yes, it's very, very simple. If you buy the video on the light meter, so mastering the model shoot on the light meter, you can actually see a whole calibration process on there. There's also another way that's also very easy. Make sure you have an 18% gray card. So not a white balancing card, not a color checker, but a real 18% gray card. And you can calibrate your meter on that one too. Just make sure that you do it in your raw converter and that all the settings are 128, 128, 128. And at that point you also have a proper calibration of your light meter. So Brian asks me, how is the new Psychonic meter working out? I absolutely love it. The only problem I have with it is that it doesn't do a 1 degree spot. So that's the only problem. So my preference is still the Psychonic 758. But for the moment, the new one really works out pretty nice because, well, it can trigger all my Elinchrom strobes and I can change whatever I want on them. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's look at this shot. That were all the questions for now. Let me see. Yes. Let me see. This shot I like the best, I think. Let's go a little bit more. No. Can actually, this one, I don't like the chin. I do like her chin, but not in that shot. This one is pretty nice, but a little bit too much overexposed. This one is pretty cool. I think this one will be great in black and white. This one is a little bit nicer. Let me see. I don't like the nose over there. It's a little bit, you see this area here. So I don't like that much. So I'm going to take that one out. Same there. Of course you can shop it out or clone it out, but we already have great shots, so why bother? No. No. This one is nice. No. No. Too dark in her eyes. This one is okay. This one I really like. This one I like. This one is also cool. This one I really love. That one is too dark on the background. This is okay. Wow, love that one. Give that 5 points. There we go, 5 stars. Ooh, see the difference with her chin down? That's actually pretty nice. Okay, this was with all the reflections. And the reflections aren't per se bad, but it's like, yeah, you know. Love this one. Love the hand over here. No, this is too much like an American Next Top Model pose. Just do something. Okay, there we go. Okay, I think we're gonna retouch the last one. This is awesome. Look at the power. Really nice. Okay, so because I've set everything on rating, it now automatically does it. So I will go through the images again and just see the difference in her chin. I really like them both, but with the chin up, I just like it a little bit more. And don't make the mistake of retouching both, because if you retouch both, people will remember the worst shot and not the great shot. So if you have 2 images and both are about equal, just retouch the one that you like the most. Let's retouch this one. Okay. And I'm going to do the final tinting in Capture One, just to show you guys that you can do it. Okay, let's go to Photoshop first. Now what I'm going to do in Photoshop is actually make sure that this area looks a little bit nicer. I'm going to take this out. I love the lens flare here. It's like Mickey Mouse. We have something with Disney today. I don't know what's going on. I saw Pluto in a reflection. Now I see Mickey Mouse. I'm just waiting for Goofy. Well, we actually goofed up with our power the first start. We had a false start. If you're just tuning in or you're seeing this recorded, we had a false start. We had to start 1 hour later because, believe it or not, we had a power outage, which is ridiculous because it never happens here. Although, if Scott Kelby is looking now, I'm really sorry, Scott. We were talking with Scott a while ago about how the Netherlands have a perfect system with power because everything is underground. And while he was sitting in my car, it was actually terrible because that was the day, and I don't know, for the Dutch people, they will remember this, it was last year, that I think 30% of the Netherlands was without power. So the only thing Scott was, he looked at me and he said, yeah, your system is perfect. Yeah, when it goes down, it goes really down. But this was very local, by the way. It was in our breaker box area. So, but we fixed it now. I hope I don't see any smoke, so I guess we fixed it good. Okay, so let's see, we go into 100%. And we see a little bit of a problem here. So we're going to take that one out, do the spot healing brush. Sorry, the normal healing brush. Looks pretty cool. And just going to say bye to our model. Bye, Kimberley. You did awesome. You rock. Okay. This is, by the way, also one of the tips I will give you guys, and this is the real honest truth. Of course, I love how Kimberley posed, right? And this has nothing to do with her. But even if your model didn't do as well as you expected, always tell your model she did right. Now, Kimberley really did good, so this is no way meaning for her. But one of the most important things is a model has to be 100% at ease with you in front of your camera. And if you are the kind of photographer that tells your model, yeah, you didn't do well, and maybe next time, and it will really ruin their confidence. So if she did something wrong, just tell her very, very politely, like, hey, if you do this time, just look at your hands like this and try it a little bit better. But don't be I don't know if I can say the word, of course we're just gonna say, don't be an ass to your model. Be very, very nice and very friendly, and it will really reflect back on your photography. And you will get great, great interaction with your model. Okay. So I'm pretty happy with this. The only thing I now want is I want this area gone. So I'm going to go to the quick mask and I'm going to actually paint that in. As you can see here, and it can be a little bit rough with this. There we go. Okay. Make sure to inverse this. I always say invert, but it's inverse. And press delete or backspace. This was actually the only thing I needed to do in Photoshop. Deselect. Okay, now zoom in 100% to make sure you got everything, because it will be terrible to go back later. Okay, see a little bit of a problem here. I'm going to take that out. There we go. Awesome. And by the way, if you want to know what we're going to do with the next digital classroom, I can tell you already we're going to do something probably with a horror theme, because we bought a lot of gas masks and different stuff, so I'm dying to try that out. Okay, so this looks pretty nice, so let's save this. And of course you can use your Photoshop and you can use your Lightroom for tinting, but any program will do, like for example Capture One. So if I go here and I go into my Retouching Capture One, I will actually see those images appearing. Let's go here. Here you see. There we go. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this online, but I will post it very soon. We did a workshop in New York with a 100 megapixel camera, the phase 1. Now, if you have a gray seamless in your studio and you don't like the gray seamless that much and you go like, I would like to do something else with it, why not do something like this? We just created a hole in it and let the model be funky behind it. And even hold the camera. This is a really expensive camera to make selfies. There's one strobe behind the model just shining through. And as you can see, you can get some really cool shots. Now I hear you guys going like, can you see it 100%? Yes, you can. Now look at this. Takes a little bit of a while. There we go. Look at this detail. 101 megapixels. It's a Sony sensor, so it has an amazing dynamic range. Now imagine this. This is just sick. And I'm running on a very high resolution monitor. So I just love doing this. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so the tinting in Capture One. Now in Capture One you actually see this. These are the settings, the styles and presets. I created some myself, but you can create some yourself too. And I will just go through them and I will just find one that I really like. And after that you can fine tune those. So I just go through those until I see something that I like. There we go, love this. So remember that one. I will also go through some of the settings. Oh, I love the black and whites too. Amazing, really nice. Somehow I always like the black and whites and I never end up with black and white. That's the weird thing about me. Oh, there we go. Love this one. Cold Steel Warm 1. Let's remember that one. Okay, go down further. Oh, that's nice. I love the totally overblown look with this. There we go. This is the one. Really love this, the film look. Now, if you want to enhance this a little bit, you can just go into your settings and you can actually say, okay, let's protect the highlights just a little bit, because this is a little bit too much. So just protect the highlights. Let's bump the shadows up or down. In this case, I like them up a little bit more. Add a little bit of contrast. There we go. Bump down the saturation just a little bit. There we go. And of course, you can also choose. Oh, sorry. You can also choose to use your. Normally, that works. Somehow, it's that moment of the day. There we go. Just give it a little bit of contrast. There we go. Okay. awesome. And as you can see, you just create something in your raw converter. Now, if you go like, I don't know if I really like this, you can always remove it and see it before and after. But I actually love this. So now the only thing I have to do is make sure that this gets bright again, because I don't like it too much subdued. So what I can do is create a new layer, and the only thing I have to do is make sure to draw a mask on this. And just bump the exposure. And make sure that it's nice and gloomy again, or bright again. There we go. So if I take this down, it doesn't look right. And here it goes. Okay. Very nice. Now maybe take out a little bit of the vignetting. A moment, I have to go to the background layer, of course, and take out a little bit of the vignetting on top. There we go. Now the only thing I have to do is, of course, process the image into a TIFF, uncompressed, and of course an internet version. And process. Okay, the final shot I want to show you guys very quickly is the one that we did with the background, because here you can actually see what Make Fun can do for a great background. So here we have the shot. Okay, let's open up the shadows just a little bit there. So go into a new layer and again in Photoshop Lightroom, in Lightroom you can do the same thing with the adjustment brush. There we go. Okay. Make sure that we go to Photoshop, Command D. And now the only thing I have to do, of course, is because everything is automated, and this is something I cannot stress enough, automate everything, because it's so better to work. And there's only one thing, sometimes do it manually, because if you automate everything, you sometimes forget how it works, and then you're on a computer where there is no action for you, but the same filters are installed. And you go like, how did it work again? So I now actually run the Portrait Smooth again, which runs Image Nomic Portraiture on a different layer, and I immediately get a layer mask. So the only thing I have to do is just draw in the mask around the skin tones. That's all. That's all, folks. And now I do a layer, flatten image. The only thing I have to do is make sure that I take out some problems in the background. I can do this with my clone tool. I have to make the clone tool smaller. There you go. Take this out. Don't like the hair there. Now, one of the problems with the clone tool, as you can see here, it sometimes smudges a little bit. I don't know if that's the right expression. Just take it out like this. There we go. Looks a little bit better now. Oops. That's not the way you should do it, Frank. That's my Bob Ross turning up. That's not the way to do it, Frank. Okay. Looks pretty nice. Just take out some small problems in her nose area. Today I have something with noses. I don't know why. Cool. Good enough for now. Can always retouch later. Okay, now let's see what Make Fun can do with this. So you go into Filters, Make Fun Creative Kit, and you go to Intensify. Now, if you don't have a Mac, because Make Fun only works on Macs, that's why Macs are fun. Make Fun is Mac Fun. If you don't have Make Fun, or sorry, now I'm messing everything up. If you don't have a Mac and you have a PC, you can actually use Clarity from Topaz. Now, Clarity from Topaz does slightly the same. Almost the same, I mean, but it's a little bit less tunable. But if you have a PC, you have no other options, because Intensify does a really cool job, as you can see here, with backgrounds and contrast. And if you go into, for example, tonal contrast from Nik, it works pretty good, but it's just a little bit more rough. If you use Clarity from Lightroom, it's way too rough. And every other option actually destroys more in the image that it keeps intact. So that's why I love Intensify. And Clarity from Topaz comes really, really close. Now, if you go on my website, by the way, you can get some nice discount codes also for Topaz Clarity. And also for Alien Skin, by the way, and also for Make Fun. So again, for Make Fun, by the way, I will show you the link very quickly, because it's still rendering. So if you go here, you can get a great deal on their creative kit. Really cool. And I'm very thankful to make fun to making this possible for you guys, because they're giving an almost €300 discount, so that's pretty heavy. That's why I show it so much. Okay, go to layer mask, and in this case, reveal all. I want to show everything because I only want to take it out of the skin and out of her hands. So I'm going to go to black, and I'm going to paint the effect out. There we go. I'm going to show you a really cool trick in a moment with a black and white conversion, which isn't a black and white conversion. And that one will really enhance your workflow. There you go. Looks pretty nice. Now you can go to the bottom layer and you can actually bump the brightness in the middle just a little bit, as you can see here. So before and after, and that's because we're using layer masks. Make it a little bit nicer. I love the way that her face pops now. Okay, so there's this white area that really annoys me. Let me see what it is, because I can't clone it out. Oh, there we go. Do a layer flatten image. There we go. Cool. Nice. Okay, let's do this original aspect ratio, and let's crop it just a little bit. Make it a little bit more tight. Nice. Okay. So the black and white conversion. Now watch this layer. Adjustment layer. So we're going to make a new adjustment layer. One moment. There we go. And make it a black and white adjustment layer. Now as you can see, when I do a black and white adjustment layer, everything turns black and white. However, if I use my luminosity, everything turns black into color again. Now what I can do, and this is pretty cool, I can now actually change the opacity or the reds or the saturation of these colors. And without affecting the skin too much, I can make my background really pop. But I can also change the yellows, make it even more so. So I'm actually tinting now with an adjustment layer, which is actually only supposed to work for black and white. So I can make her sweater a little bit more darker or lighter. Which do you like? This is also a great way to get away from some weird distortions you have in your colors. For example, the hands, if they're a little bit too magenta or too red because it's cold. So see the difference. It's not subtle. So this is also a way to tint. Oh, somebody has a question. When does the MacFun discount expire, and do you have a discount for portraiture? Yes, all the discounts are on my website. I will show you very quickly as soon as my internet works again. There we go. So you go to frankdoorhof.com. Oops. And you go to the blog. And then you actually go to MacFun software discounts, which is the MacFun, of course. But you can also go here to the discount page. Now, if you go to the discount page, you see Topaz, Alien Skin, MacFun, and Capture One. At the moment, we don't have a code for Imagenomic Portraiture, but I will add them very soon, probably end of the week. So you will see then also a discount code for Imagenomic Portraiture. We're working on that one, so don't worry. So wait a little bit. Okay, let's go back to Photoshop. Okay, so I have my image here. I do my layer flatten image, and I'm going to go back into Capture One for the final tinting. So I do save. Go to my folder where it stores everything in Retouch. There we go. Just go here. And the only thing I now have to do is tint my image. And this is something that I always do with my images. I like to give them a little bit of a tint. And as you can see, it makes a huge difference. I love this one. This one is even better. This one is a little bit too dark. So I'm going to open it up just a little bit on the shadow areas. There you go. And it gives you a really nice look. So if I take it out, you will see it like this. And if I put it in, it just gives me a little bit of an extra edge. The only thing I don't like is the clarity. It's a little bit too much. So just take it out, but make sure you check the eyes that they're still nicely in focus. There we go. It gives you a little bit of a nice glow. So not too much. There we go. This is nice. And the only thing I now have to do, of course, is create the TIFF and the internet version and process. Okay guys, so that's it for today. We still have one more thing for you, by the way. Now, if you like these digital classrooms, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, but there is more, so wait for a moment. Let me show you the YouTube channel, there we go. Okay, but there's more. We have a really cool castle workshop coming up, and I will show you the flyer really fast for this. It's an English workshop. It's on the 9th of April in Castle Doorwerd, or the 25th of June in Castle Roosendaal, and the one on the April 9th will be in English. So that one you should really check out, because that one is really cool. We also have an open day for all you Dutch guys out there on the 30th of April. You are more than welcome in our studio between 10 and 16, that's 10 and 4, military time of course. And we will do a live photo shoot. You will get spectacular offers for workshops and photo shoots, and it's totally free. The other thing I want to point out, and that's the final thing, and I'm going to leave you guys go, is on our website, and a lot of people don't know this or they miss it, on the left side there are all the special workshops, and one where we still have a few tickets for left because it's a very big venue is the Mastering the Model Shoot A to Z in England. This is at the Lawyer Hall Heathrow College in University of London, Kensington. And this is a really cool workshop. It's only £50 and it's an A to Z, meaning you will see everything from the styling, the photo shoot, coaching the model, retouching, social media, and whatever. So go to this part of this photo shoot, of my website, Mastering the Model Shoot on Tour UK. The one on the 5th is already sold out, but for the 4th we still have some seats left. So I want to thank you guys very, very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and make sure you let us know that you enjoyed it online. So subscribe to our YouTube channel. The other thing is, make sure that a lot of other people also know about it, so share the link. So thank you so very much for watching. My name is Frank Dorov, and this was Digital Classroom. Very much thanks to Rogue Expo Imaging and of course BenQ for making this all possible for you guys. See you next time.